The much-anticipated Washington summit, intended to build on the direct dialogue initiated between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, took a shocking and confrontational turn, leaving the path to a negotiated peace in Ukraine more precarious than ever. Hopes for a straightforward meeting to hash out the details of a ceasefire and territorial arrangements based on existing front lines were shattered by Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. In a calculated and dramatic diplomatic maneuvers, Lavrov presented a set of maximalist demands that went far beyond the expected focus on Crimea and the Donbas region, stunning the American delegation and fundamentally resetting the terms of any future negotiations. The meeting, held in the stately confines of the State Department, was meant to be a working session to operationalize the leaders' conversation. Instead, it became the stage for a Russian declaration of expanded territorial ambition that caught President Trump and his top national security officials completely off guard. The bombshell moment came when Lavrov, with his characteristic impassivity, unveiled a map and detailed a proposal that effectively called for the dismemberment of Ukraine as a sovereign state. He declared that a lasting peace was impossible without addressing what he termed historical injustice and securing Russia's strategic access to the Black Sea. The proposal demanded not only the formal ceding of the entirety of the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, but also the establishment of a new demilitarized zones of Russian security interests. This zone, according to Lavrov's presentation, would encompass the major cities of Kharkiv in the northeast and, most alarmingly, Odessa in the south. This demand was not framed as a negotiation point, but as a precondition for any further talks, a non-negotiable bottom line. The strategic implication was immediately clear to everyone in the room. Russia was demanding control over Ukraine's entire southern coastline, effectively landlocking the country and crippling its economy. The reaction from the American side was one of disbelief and immediate anger. President Trump, who prided himself on his deal-making abilities and had entered the meeting with the expectation of hammering out a historic agreement, was visibly incensed. Sources in the room described the president as being stunned into a rare silence before forcefully rejecting the proposal as a non-starter. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who had been cautiously optimistic about finding a diplomatic pathway, reportedly condemned the Russian position as an outrageous and bad faith escalation. He argued that it was impossible to negotiate with a party that was continuously expanding its war aims. The meeting devolved into a tense and acrimonious exchange, with Rubio accusing Lavrov of attempting to sabotage the peace process, and Lavrov calmly retorting that Russia was simply stating the new realities on the ground. The most explosive reaction came from Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth. For Hegseth, Lavrov's declaration was the ultimate vindication of his deeply held hawkish views on Russia. He saw the move as proof that the Kremlin could not be trusted and that any attempt at negotiation was a sign of weakness that would only invite further aggression. In an emergency meeting of the National Security Council convened immediately after the summit, Hegseth is said to have argued for a significant and immediate increase in military aid to Ukraine, including the provision of advanced long-range missiles that the administration had previously withheld. He also advocated for a major show of American military force in Eastern Europe, including the deployment of additional troops and naval assets to the Black Sea, to demonstrate to Putin that the United States would not be intimidated. The intelligence community was thrown into a frantic effort to understand the motivation behind Russia's audacious move. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, whose previous assessment had emphasized the potential for a negotiated settlement based on the stalemate, was now faced with a radically different strategic picture. Her non-interventionist stance was severely tested by this blatant Russian escalation. Analysts at the Central Intelligence Agency, under the direction of John Ratcliffe, worked around the clock to determine whether Lavrov's declaration was a genuine reflection of Putin's intention or an elaborate bluff designed to extract maximum concession. The initial assessment was that while the demand for Odessa and Kharkiv might be a maximalist opening position, the underlying strategic objective of securing a land bridge to Crimea and controlling Ukraine's Black Sea coast was a long-standing and deeply held Russian ambition. The reverberations from the failed summit were felt immediately across the globe. European leaders who had already been sidelined and humiliated by President Trump's direct dealing with Putin were now in a state of high alarm. The prospect of Russian-controlled Odessa a major international port, sends shudders through the capital of Europe. It raises the specter of a new Iron Curtain descending across the continent, with a newly aggressive and expansionist Russia on its eastern flank. The unified front that the Trump administration had sought to break was now ironically beginning to coalesce out of a shared sense of fear and urgency. The French and German government, which had been the target of Secretary Hexet's earlier accusations of sabotage, were now among the most vocal in calling for a strong and united response to Russian aggression. Inside the Trump administration, the failed summit exposed and deepened the existing fault line on foreign policy. The Peace Through Strength faction, led by Hexet, saw the event as a clear justification for a more confrontational approach. The America-first pragmatists, who had been ascendant in recent weeks, were now on the defensive. Their argument that a quick and transactional deal could be made with Putin had been blown apart by Lavrov's stunning declaration. Secretary of State Rubio found himself in the difficult position of trying to pick up the diplomatic piece while also managing the increasingly hawkish instinct of the president and the Pentagon. The path forward was now dangerously unclear. In conclusion, the Washington summit, which was supposed to be a step toward peace, has instead brought the world closer to a wider and more dangerous conflict. Sergei Lavrov's audacious territorial demands have completely upended the diplomatic process and have forced the Trump administration to confront the reality of a Russia that is not interested in compromise but in total victory. The declaration that Russia's ambition extends far beyond Crimea and the Donbas to the strategic heartlands of Ukraine has shattered any illusions of an easy or quick resolution to the war. President Trump, who has staked his reputation on his ability to make a deal with Putin, now finds himself in a diplomatic and strategic cul-de-sac. The coming days will be a critical test of his leadership and of the resilience of the Western alliance. The world holds its breath as the risk of a direct confrontation between nuclear-armed powers loom larger than at any time since the darkest days of the Cold War. The Kremlin's revival of the historical Novorossiya project, an imperial concept aimed at annexing southern Ukraine, is no longer a French idea but an openly stated policy objective, transforming the nature of the conflict and presenting a grave challenge to the international order. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first ones on me. But if you have watched the show before, it's like you're a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen the show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.